Hello, Shaker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Are you struggling with health issues and you just can't seem to get over them, but you know you have inside you the ability to heal and you want to figure out how to get to that other side, how to feel amazing again, or maybe amazing for the first time? Do you ever look at other people who are really healthy enviously, like, man, I wish I could look that way. I wish I could feel that way. I wish I could do those things. I wish I could even be my younger self again. Whether it's fatigue, chronic pain, hormone imbalance, digestive issues, inflammation, or a diagnosis that's left you feeling hopeless, you can heal. And I will show you how. I've helped thousands discover the truth behind their symptoms and reverse what mainstream medicine was calling incurable. There are answers to over 900 diseases, and I'm offering you a free phone call where you and I personally chat and I guide you to the exact tools, protocols, and resources you need to finally feel not only like yourself again, but like the person you know you can become. Strong, energized, vibrant, feeling like your teenage self again. Do you remember how much energy we had as teenagers? That's what I want for you. And that's what you can achieve. And you can have that. We can actually reverse our age. Biologically, we can get so healthy, our body becomes younger. We can reverse the damage, the cellular damage that's happened, and our cells can be younger. And I can show you how. This isn't about managing symptoms either. That's what drugs do. Drugs manage symptoms. Drugs don't heal things. I don't know if you've noticed that. 70% of Americans are on at least one prescription medication. 1/3 of Americans in their lifetime will have a cancer diagnosis. We have massive rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and it's just getting worse and worse, not better. It's getting worse and worse under the care of the allopathic doctor with more and more drugs. I am here to show you how to support your body's ability to heal itself so that you can have the most vibrant life. You can get back that energy and vitality that you had as a teenager. Maybe you didn't have it as a teenager. I know some people who were sick their whole lives, and I've helped them get better. And now in their 40s and 50s, they feel like they're a teenager, which is what I want for you. And this is why I do what I do. Because I was sick for many years and I figured out how to reverse my issues and I made it my life's mission. And honestly, it was God who made it my life's mission to help you heal and help you achieve your health goals. Visit learntruehealth.com, go to the menu and select Work with Ashley James, and then you can select the free phone call with me. I'd love to help you. And I love talking to the listeners, to my listeners. I've helped so many of you and connected with you and just really, really enjoy speaking with you. There's going to be no pressure on our phone call. It's not a salesy call. It is me listening to you and giving you the resources, the tools, the answers that I know will help you and to guide you to getting exactly what you need. Now, if you want to hire me as your health coach, you can absolutely do that. You don't have to, but you can, and I can share that information with you if that's what you're looking for. Some people want more handholding, want to work with me on a weekly basis, where I help them to completely revamp their whole lifestyle to support their healing and to get to the other side. Whereas some people just want me to point them to the resources and help them get on that path, and then they take it from there. And that's fine too. I'm here to help you. So if you prayed last night, if you cried in your pillow, I remember doing that when I was so sick. If you just prayed for an answer, this is me sharing this answer with you. I am here to help you. If you know someone who is suffering, and it doesn't have to just be physical, because the body physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually is all connected. This is what we talk about on today's show. Mental health has a foothold in our physical health, just like our physical health has a foothold in our emotional and mental health as well. I help people to reverse anxiety. I help people to end anxiety problems. And I've been doing that since 2005. I have a very successful program. I'd love to help you if anxiety is your problem. I also help people to heal and resolve those unresolved negative emotions that are stuck inside them. Anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt from the past. If you have any of that that is affecting your now, I can work with you. I have a very powerful technique called timeline therapy. And in one session, takes about 45 minutes, you can resolve 100% of all the experiences in your past that hold that negative emotion that's stuck inside you. It's a very powerful tool. It's a lot of fun to do, actually. And so I have all these resources for you. I have resources to show you how to heal physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I have a bunch of tools. I want to help you. So go to learntruehealth.com. In the menu, select Work with Ashley James. You can also sign up for my new newsletter. I've written a bunch of articles that I share just in the newsletter. You scroll all the way to the bottom of my website to sign up for the free newsletter, and I give you a gift. I give you 1/3 of my book, a huge portion of my book for free. So you can get started right away for free. Get started learning and implementing the amazing lessons that nourish and heal your cells and bring you immediate vitality and energy. So go get my free copy of 1/3 of my book by scrolling all the way to the bottom of my site, learntruehealth.com, and joining the new newsletter, brand new newsletter. You can also try buying my book and experiencing it, the physical copy, by going to learntruehealth.com/addicted to wellness. You can get the ebook version. I also have an audio video version. So just check out learntruehealth.com and you'll see all of that there. And if you have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out, Ashley@learntruehealth.com. I'd love to help you. And of course, you can join our Facebook group where we answer not only myself, but many of the doctors and experts from over 500 episodes of my podcast are in the Facebook group, the Learn True Health Facebook group, and they will chime in and answer questions as well. So it's a wonderful healing community, holistic health community. So go to learntruehealth.com/group or just search Learn True Health in Facebook to join it. Thank you so much for being a listener. Thank you so much for sharing this episode with those you care about. Together, we're going to turn this ripple into a tidal wave and help as many people as possible to get off drugs, get their health back so much that they're the healthiest they've ever been at any stage of their life, and to learn true health. Enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 547. I am so excited for today's guest. We have with us Miriam Putnam, who, oh man, she's got quite a story for you, so strap in. Reading your bio, I was kind of like, is this for real? It was like just many super interesting things. Your family comes from the founders of Crayola crayons, which, first of all, I have to ask you, do you say crayons or crayons?
I say crayons.
Thank you, because my son went to a Montessori, and the woman that ran it actually is like one of my best friends now. Like, we became really good friends, but she says crayons, and I didn't even know that there's like a whole part of America that says crayons instead of crayons. And so my son says crayons, and I feel like he's not even mine. I'm like, did you even come from me? Like, did you get switched? Did I pick up the wrong kid one day at Montessori?
Yeah.
Like, are you even my child?
Yeah.
So I love that. So yeah, your family comes from Crayola crayons, just super interesting. I mean, nothing about what we're going to talk about today, but that's just super interesting. And then Putnam Publishing, and you're related to Amelia Earhart, which I just think is like super cool. Like, just a really interesting family and background. My husband's a direct descendant of Benjamin Franklin, so it's always fun to look back and go, what is our lineage? What's our pedigree?
Yeah, exactly. What is the heritage?
Yeah, and then learn from that. And I wish, and this would be a cool tradition to start, but I wish my ancestors somewhere along the line had like started just like writing letters to their future generations. Like, here's what I learned in my life. Like, wouldn't it be cool to like write down some things and then pass it on, and each generation just add to the book? It would be so cool to go back and like learn a bit from, each grandmother and mother going up the chain, or father going up the chain.
Definitely, I agree with you. It's a beautiful and romantic thought, kind of like, take the best of the family and put it in a book.
And your focus, which of course is health and holistic health, and that's why we're here. But one of your big focuses is mental health, and that is something that we also see when we look at generationally, when we look at our family, our direct family, of course. But then when we look at generations, like I think about how my grandparents or great grandparents raised my grandparents, and my grandparents raised my parents, and we see sometimes mental health issues kind of being passed down or not addressed, right? Or perpetuated from, because I think we could talk about this, but in our society, we often think mental health is just some kind of chemical imbalance. That's just something to be corrected with drugs, and not really looking at it's more of something that requires love and grace and going through a lot of self-reflection, going through and uncovering what's going on, generational trauma, uncovering our trauma and healing it, right? And looking at mental health from the standpoint of it's something to grow from, not something that needs to be institutionalized and sort of tucked away and ignored from society. So I'm sure you have a lot to talk about mental health. And I definitely want to talk about your mom and how her life and her journey has impacted what you're doing with people. And so there's so much to talk about. But before we get into all that, Miriam, can you tell us a bit about you and your life and what led you to teaching people how to have amazing transformations in their mental health?
That is quite a question, Ashley. I love it.
You have the floor for the next 2 hours.
Right. Very kind of you. That is, it's a long-winded answer, but by all means, I would love to explain that to you. It's very interrelated with my mother, right? I'm not exactly quite sure what I would have ended up doing if I didn't go through extreme trauma with the unfortunately broken mental health system when I was younger. She started getting sick when I was around 19, I guess. And I was desperate for answers. I'd say that I was probably on a quest for genuine holistic mental health and finding answers from when I was young, right? So that is basically it in a nutshell. It's just going through the heartache with my mom and listening to the advice from doctors and watching my mom cry her eyes out and have horrible, horrible responses from the medication, between numbing to rashes to sleep issues to sleeping too much to gaining weight to losing weight to twitching in the appendages and hair falling out, and I mean the list of effects goes on and on and on. And also she was very brilliant. She was actually very smart, so she would get into quite philosophical and intelligent conversations with the doctors, and she would ask, well, why do I have to take this if there's black box label warnings? So I was always curious and with her, and we were very spiritually connected. And even from the first time that she was put into a hospital, after she had, I think at that point in time, she had lost 3 people very close to her, her father, and then 2 of her best friends, and my mom and dad were going through marital difficulties. So those things just how they can affect somebody just individually. Like if it was just one loss or just one marital issue, but all 4 of those things combined, she ended up having a very difficult time. And it was also during menopause like 47, I think was around the age. So she got put in a hospital after all those things were going on. And then the doctor singled me out and, in the hospital and said, well, if anyone has the gene, you have the gene. And I was shocked. Like, how in the world can he possibly have the audacity to say that? And what is he talking about? So I've just been on a quest, and I was really looking to find somebody like me. And then once I grew up and I read and I studied and I did lots of work on myself, and I realized that I needed to be the voice that a lot of people were looking for in mental health. So that's me.
That black box label is really scary. I have a close family member who, after their spouse died, was obviously, that's not depression. That's natural grief. And they were not properly explained. Like, there was not doctors are supposed to give, which they often don't. They're supposed to give you true informed consent.
Yeah, exactly.
And true informed consent looks like, here's all the positives, here's all the negatives, and here's the alternatives you could do instead. They don't tell you that. They really don't give you the full true informed consent. And this family member of mine was given this medication, which they got on. And then after they got on it, that's when they discovered that if they were to miss a dose or a few doses, they could die. That it's a quote unquote mental health drug, right, for depression. But that, like, if they, just kind of forgot to take it, which you're in grief, you're not in your routine,
right. Yeah,
easy to forget.
Yeah,
that if you skip a few, you can actually die from it. And
because the body will go into shock because of all those synapses and the way that it works. Yeah.
And what's on their record is they have early stage dementia. So you're giving a dementia patient a drug that if they forget to take it, they could die. Yeah. And they weren't told this before they got put on the drug.
I know.
And this was for depression. It's like, well, what else did you try? Did you, what else did you, this is why it just drives me nuts
where was the blood test? Like, where are the body health conditions to correct and handle?
Right. And this was a GP. This was a regular, like, just GP. This wasn't this wasn't a mental health doctor, right? They didn't, she didn't, this is what drives me nuts about our system is it's like, you're going to a drug dealer. You're going to be given drugs.
Yeah.
Right.
I know, but it's totally frustrating. You're so right, Ashley. I mean, it would be so nice if we could see the educational system most likely really needs to improve, and doctors need to have a lot more training as far as nutrition and natural body health and blood tests where somebody can actually find like the functional and the root cause. It would be so nice to see that happen. But if doctors could just overall come together and say, hey, what happened to our Hippocratic Oath? Let's apply that.
The problem with that is that it takes away money from the pharmaceutical industry, who funds the education for these doctors. And I know that sounds like I'm wearing my tinfoil hat, but it's traceable. You can follow the money.
Yeah, I know. You follow the money. I do so much mental health advocacy. You're very right. I mean, there's so much money that is in the pharmaceutical industry where there's actually like a budget line item for future lawsuits. And so it's, somebody dies, somebody has a bad experience, somebody experiences every single effect that is listed on the black label warning box. Well, the family's paid off, and it's just another day. It's a tragedy. It's actually a tragedy. Like, I feel like it is a complete and utter human rights violation of every single person getting those prescriptions from a doctor. And it isn't always psychologists and psychiatrists giving out the prescriptions. I think depending on which state we're talking about, it's much higher for GPs. And then when we get into the area of children being medicated, just mic drop. I mean, for me, it's like, it just brings tears to my eyes what's happening. Pediatricians are giving out prescriptions at such a rapid rate that it is absolutely and completely unacceptable what is going on with our children in this country.
And so let's say, for example, anxiety meds. Because one of the things I do, and I've been doing since 2005, is I teach people how to turn off anxiety. That I teach them the mechanism in their brain that creates anxiety and how to turn it off. It's like a program, and it's so easy, and I'm so excited to teach people this. Like if you Google my name, Ashley James, and the word anxiety, you're gonna find some podcasts where I'm teaching one of the techniques. It's within 90 seconds. I can anyone. You can give me any person on the planet with anxiety, and within 90 seconds, their anxiety will be gone. Now, it can come back because they haven't rewired their brain. There's like a whole process. But in the moment, we can turn off anxiety. So here's the thing.
Yeah, healthy habits.
Turn it off.
Ashley, that's great. Holistic is the way to go.
Right. But if you can turn something off, like let's say I could teach you, for example, I'm going to say depression, but I'm not. I mean, depression is more than that. But if you could turn it off, right, then do you really need a medication for it? Right. So if you could turn anxiety off in the moment, is it a chemical imbalance that needs to be medicated? Right. So anxiety, we have medications for it. And the thing is, there's side effects. And these aren't when we think side effects, we think like, oh, it may or may not happen. Like not everyone gets them, just rare. And some people get them. It's Edward Bernays, if you know who that is the nephew of Freud. And he was the guy that like just took PR marketing to the next level in manipulating linguistics. He's the one that single-handedly got doubled the cigarette sales because he got women smoking, because he turned it into something like cool, sexy women with freedom get to smoke. So Edward Bernays, you could read his books, is fascinating. But the whole concept of manipulating us, right? And this is what the pharmaceutical industry does. So when I think about manipulating us to believe something, like we need something. So when it comes to anxiety, right? Side effect is a term that they created to make you think it's like innocent, like not as harmful. Like, oh, not everyone gets that. It's just some random one-off thing. But every single drug you take has an effect, a negative effect. It's like it's a toll you pay. So whether it depletes your liver of selenium, like whether it depletes your body of being able to produce glutathione, whether it shuts processes down that detox, like every single over-the-counter drug and every single prescribed drug depletes the body of certain key nutrients, shuts down certain enzymatic processes. We are paying a toll with our longevity and the quality of our life and the quality of our health every time we take a drug. It's a petroleum-based chemical. It's not meant to be in our body. Now, I love that there's drugs that save lives, right? Like I'd rather you be alive and be on a drug and then have to work on cleaning up your life to clean up your health to overcome whatever negative effects from that drug. Like you shared, I hope it's okay. I say this, you shared about your childhood and about what you went through. Is it okay if I share that?
Yeah.
That's
fine.
So before we hit record, you shared that you were you had cancer as a child and went through chemotherapy and experienced the massive negative effects of that. And then you've worked to clean up your health, and you overcame that. And we can. Our body's amazing. It can overcome. But we have to understand that pharmaceuticals, and I think like everyone knows this, but I don't think everyone knows this. That's why I have to talk about it, because I keep running into people who are like kind of proud of the medications they're on and feel like almost like safe, like it's, like, oh, they feel like they're going to make a difference, right? Like I feel proud about the organic food I eat, like that's going to make a difference in my life.
Yeah, no, I know. But I mean, I think it's because like as a population or overall, there's almost this accepted viewpoint that if a doctor says it's okay, then it makes it okay. So a lot of times I coach people on being their own advocate, like looking into the truth regarding their direction they're going to go,
Mm-hmm.
because that's so vital. We can't just turn over our determinism on our life and how something may affect us and our loved ones to someone else. I mean, definitely it's very good to have advice. Like you know, if hopefully it's fine for me to share this, but you share with me Dr. Wallach and how much his advice helped you,
Mm-hmm.
but you had to decide that you were going to take that advice, right? And so I think a lot of times people are taking a doctor's advice without responsibility in that decision.
Or responsibility in researching the
Right,
decision, because
exactly. Yeah,
we
exactly.
trust that the doctor prescribing the drug, for example, Dr. Wallach's a naturopathic physician, so he was talking more about nutrition. But
Right.
when we go to our doctors and we're told we should get on a medication, like we look at them like they're like we're children, they're our parents, and we just blindly trust. But we have to absolutely do the research, and this is why it helps to be. And not everyone has this in them. Most people want to go with the flow. Most people want to be the salmon, but it really helps to be opposite of salmon. It helps to be the salmon. I am the salmon. I go against the stream. It helps to be the black sheep. It helps to be the contrarian. It helps to be that I don't know, that the if you were a difficult child because you always asked why and you kind of like defied authority, like you strong-willed children grow up to be amazing adults that are great at advocating for themselves. So don't try to break that in kids. But that's what you want to be, a strong-willed adult in that you want to question authority enough to look deeper.
Yeah, and question the reality and be on your own journey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all are on a wellness journey, whichever phase we're all on, body, mind, and soul. So it's our it's our responsibility to be our own advocate, you know?
And coming back to what you said about medicating children, which just breaks my heart because they don't get to decide. They're not
Mm-hmm.
they're not part of their choice. The parent has to make the decision for them, and sometimes the doctors even force it upon them, which is really sad. But like just using anxiety as an example, which is one of the many medications that children are put on, as well as adults, we can turn off anxiety based on a few minute conversation with me, for example. Like we can turn off anxiety. It's not it's not something that's broken in us that needs a medication. You don't have a medication deficiency. Like mental
Right,
health.
of
That's
course.
why it's like
That's totally made up. Right. Yeah,
this
exactly.
this thing. It's like if you have depression, it's not this simple just get on a medication and numb yourself out. Like it's so much deeper in diving into your life and doing the work to heal. And there are things that can actually help you get a leg up really fast to help you start feeling hope again, which I feel like in depression, hope is lost. And so
I mean,
bringing hope in, but medication's not going to do that. This is the problem, is that the pharmaceutical companies make it seem like that's what's like, it's going to bring hope back. And what they're not telling you is how much it actually hurts you.
Right.
And which unfortunately is your experience with your mom.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable tragedy. Unbelievable tragedy. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Like the emotional pain of trying to save, help, advocate, understand, research on behalf of one of your parents, or it could even be your sibling, but for me it was my mom, trying to figure out a pathway for health so that she would feel okay, and then keep running into brick walls was like, there aren't there aren't extreme enough words to describe how absolutely miserable that was. My mom was in nearly 20 mental hospitals, and it's not like I am from a family that didn't have the resources, right? So it's not, I didn't have the experience of saying like, oh, okay, well, if we only could afford better healthcare, or if we could only
Right.
afford a better hospital, if we could only afford a trip to Arizona or California or somewhere where more holistic remedies and are more likely to occur. That wasn't the reality. There was every doctor that money could buy in that area. We sought out and we got advice from, and we tried many, many, many different avenues. So my heart breaks for people that are going through this now, because I know how absolutely devastating it is. Because when you are talking about somebody that has some mental health / mental illness issue, there is no scan for that, Ashley. So this was what I was running into time and time again, with the doctors repeatedly telling me, because I was my mom's advocate. I was saying, okay, but she doesn't like the medicine. Like, isn't there something else we can do? Because I'm like, was always that kind of black sheep in my family. Well, okay, fine. You say it's white, but maybe it's black. It doesn't seem to be working. It's pretty obvious. Well, this is what happens with people when they have a mental health issue. This is what mental illness is. And if she doesn't take the medicine, then she's going to die. And I would just be crying my eyes out with my siblings, devastated, because there's no other choice. Like, if I don't give my mom this medicine, then I'm basically condemning her to suicide and death. That is my choice. Oh my gosh, it's so heartbreaking. And that is the reality that people are facing. So if somebody doesn't actually want to take it, but their family is around them because they love them and they want to support them, then the person ends up getting pressured to take it. And that happened to my mom time and time again, until, finally she ended up passing away. It was like almost 20 years of this misery. And I consider that she passed away from a heartbreak. I mean, it still brings me to tears to this day, because it's just such a terrible reality for somebody to experience that.
So, in losing your mom in this way, it sounds like you've been highly motivated to learn tools to help people gain control of their own mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
you obviously were, I'm guessing, you were seeking these help tools out first for her and for you. And what happened in your life that you kind of jumped the tracks and went from just looking for the tools for yourself and your family to like, oh, I want to help people. Like, this is an epidemic of mental health that I want to help make a difference.
Well, I don't know if I can like pinpoint an exact moment in time, but I would say almost the whole entire 20 years, I was still on a pathway. I mean, I was just on a pathway to like, I got to do something. Like, I have to figure this out. And then it took me a long time to start finding tidbits of truth that are buried. I mean, it's just completely buried.
What's the first truth that you found that really makes a difference? Like, there's we call it in NLP, we call it the driver, the difference that makes a difference. Like, there's lots of stuff out there, there's lots of,
there's so
just
much.
lots of stuff. There's lots of noise. There's lots of static. But like, what really makes a difference? What's the driver? Like, if someone were to say, okay, I need one thing right now to do right now. I just can only hear one thing. Like, what's the one thing that's going to move the needle for most people?
Oh my gosh, one thing that's going to move.
Well, we're going to talk about more things, but like,
okay,
like what's the one thing that you're like, oh, this was when I learned this, when I started doing this, this is like, this thing made such a big difference.
Well, how about I break it down into like the first thing? The first thing that I learned that was a complete and utter mic drop was the fact that there are no scientific tests to this date that prove that someone is bipolar or schizophrenic or, you know, emotional displacement and depressed and personality disorder. Like there's no test. And when I finally stumbled upon that, I went, wait a second, hold on. Are you kidding me? All of this and there's no proof?
Mm-hmm.
What? This is like the biggest, most hidden lie, but out there in the open lie that I actually think exists in America anyway, like as far as mental health, because currently we have an epidemic, right? I mean, it's quite a situation that we have right now.
We assume that the doctor just, like, because, we have the DSM-5, right? So you meet a certain amount of criteria, that means you get put in this box. But we have to kind of pretend you are not from this planet.
pretend you're from another planet.
Pretend you're just not from here, and you weren't raised with any of these beliefs or installed any of the beliefs that they want you to install. Like I use, for example, commercials you saw as a child, like Tony the Tiger. And then when you go through, like, so you see all these commercials about food, or like McDonald's, and you see all these wonderful commercials with these cartoons, and you feel really good about it. And then when you go to the store as a child, you go, oh, you recognize it. And you're like, oh, I trust this brand, because you have this warm, fuzzy feeling because you saw the cartoons, the commercials. You feel good about it, right? Because this is Edward Bernays. This is PR marketing. This is hypnosis. Yeah. We are accepting these messages, right? And then as an adult, you just blindly trust the Tylenol or the Advil or the whatever, the over-the-counter, whatever cold or flu drug, because you've been seeing these commercials, and not just commercials, but it's in the meme, right? Of Hollywood, of all the media, because they pay to put it in. And so you don't even question when you like watch a movie and someone takes some Tylenol or something, right? Like, oh, I have a headache, you pass me the Tylenol, or pass me and so you get, or Pepto-Bismol, like, oh, did you take some Pepto-Bismol for that? And so they just sneak it in constantly for the last, since you started watching TV, since you were like, 4 or 5 years old, they've been sneaking in these messages, right? So we have to pretend like we're not from this planet, and then look and go, is this what's best for me, right? Or is this what's best for me? Is like sitting with the doctor and they ask me some questions, and then they go, oh, okay, after you answering these questions, you clearly have this mental illness, take this drug, right? And it's like, we believe that the diagnosis is a real thing. And one of the naturopaths that really helped train me in terms of like my mindset around this, he goes, all of the diagnoses out there is man-made, in that it's a construct, right? So if you say arthritis or diabetes, there's parameters. Yes, you can do tests. At least you can do a blood test for diabetes. But we have a certain amount of parameters, and then we say this means it's this, right? This, like, A1C of 9 means you're diabetic, or that kind of thing. He goes, but you can't bring me a wheelbarrow of diabetes. You can't bring me a bucket of arthritis, right? You can talk about symptoms. You can talk about lab tests, but not mental health, right? You can talk about symptoms. And we decide that as a society, that this is as concrete as building a house. I had type 2 diabetes, and I was told I'd always have it. I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, and I was told I'd always have it. I was infertile. An endocrinologist told me I would never have kids. I was told by doctors I would always have these things because in the MD world, it is a diagnosis is as real as a house that you could open the door and knock on, right? Like it's a real construct, but it is a man-made construct. Yes, you have these symptoms. That doesn't mean you are a diagnosis. It doesn't mean you'll always have this diagnosis. But if they can convince you you'll always have this, then it's
then you're
easier
a customer
to accept.
for life.
Yes, customer for life. And, what if you were misdiagnosed, and how many people are misdiagnosed with bipolar? So Dr. Wallach, you brought him up. He's one of my mentors. He completely changed my life. I have 2 interviews with him. Totally recommend listening to them. Listeners can go to learntohealth.com/listen for a compilation of interviews that I did with Dr. Wallach that are fantastic. And I just, I love him. He changed my life. And then the supplements is takeyoursupplements.com. That's where we get the ones from Dr. Wallach. So Dr. Wallach, who has worked with a lot of people with bipolar, diagnosed with bipolar, figured out most of them were misdiagnosed. And it was a nutrient deficiency and a blood sugar imbalance. And when he corrected the nutrient deficiencies, mostly minerals, specific nutrient deficiencies, and got their blood sugar stabilized, all their symptoms of bipolar went away. So here's my question, right? Because we see this with autism too. I've seen this many holistic doctors who work with kids who are diagnosed on the spectrum. Then they help them and the parents to clean up the diet, to do detox, support the child nutritionally. And a year later, the child is no longer presenting any symptoms of autism. So my question is, is that a quote unquote cure for autism, or were they misdiagnosed with autism and they had something else that is masking, that is mimicking autism? So how many people are out there with a nutrient deficiency, with other imbalances, or with things even just like correcting their thinking? And I know that sounds oversimplified, but I help people correct their thinking and it turns off anxiety. So what if it's something that you as in the listener, you can do, and it completely gets rid of all the symptoms of depression, anxiety, or something you were diagnosed with like bipolar, or, and if something you can do can shift it, then what are those drugs for? And why are you being told by doctors that you needed those drugs for the rest of your life? Okay, I'm getting off my soapbox, but this is,
no, you're totally fine.
Like,
I mean, we're hitting on the head of like a very big issue, namely in America. I mean, obviously it's an issue in other countries, but here it's a really big one. And I love the fact that Dr. Wallach is helping actually clear the air and take the sheets off of someone's eyes on their diagnosis, and realizing and understanding that they have a nutrient deficiency and or some underlying health issue. Because that's what I end up talking a lot to my clients about and people I choose to help. And when I'm just starting to do these interviews now, is that like I would say about 80 to 90% of mental, quote unquote, mental illnesses or mental health issues are actually an underlying body health issue. If it's a liver toxicity issue, if it's a bacteria, if it's a virus, if it's a gut health problem. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? We're all individuals. We're all individual souls that have individual bodies, and different things are going to affect all of us differently, right? So maybe when someone is young and they don't get enough vitamin C, then that turns into an underdeveloped gland in their body that presents itself as a mental illness in 25 years. I have no idea, right? But, maybe for that person, if they just get massive doses of vitamin C, that corrects their, emotional state. There's many different examples like that. But
it's funny that we, again, have to remember that we were raised, influenced since childhood, influenced by the pharmaceutical industry's PR, right? We were raised to believe what they want us to believe. So a lot of this is deprogramming. And, we also have, it's not just their commercials, because our parents that we were raised, maybe your other influences around you, as think about your childhood, who influenced you, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, your cousins, the people that surrounded you were also raised to believe in this system of thought, and they
Yeah.
enforced it upon you as well. And it's kind of crab in the bucket. If one family member starts going, well, I want to be vegetarian, or I want to try being carnivore, I want to, and they go completely different health wise than the rest of the family.
Yeah.
The family kind of tries to pull them under. I've seen it with like, someone wants to stop drinking milk, and all of a sudden the whole family freaks out, and they're like, well, what about your calcium? And you're not going to get all your nutrients, right? And it's like, we do this crab in the bucket thing where when one family member starts thinking differently than the other family members, we want to just like pull them back into our belief system because we think we're right. And so the pharmaceutical industry, which again, I know I'm sounding like a conspiracy theorist, but you got to get like how much our belief system has actually been influenced by others. We have been programmed so much. And this is why it's so good to start questioning, well, why do we do this? Like, why do I do what I do? Why do I choose these foods I choose? Why do I choose the drugs I choose? Why do I, beat myself up because I didn't do this? Right? Or why do I, like, you just have to start questioning everything and go, where does this come from? Where did this belief come from? Where did this thought come from? And we start to see that, like, how much isn't us and how much is programming that doesn't serve us. So this idea that you say, like, there's no blood work to prove you have a mental illness. I think that's really important. And
Well,
so many people.
I would ask the doctors. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No,
I would
no.
ask.
Yeah.
I did. I asked, and I was very young, looking back. And when I think about it now, I think like, oh my gosh, I was pretty bold and pretty brave because I'm being asked to give these medications to my mom, whom I love so much. And she is adamantly protesting them. And so I would ask the doctor, okay, well, what about all these effects? Like you, Ashley, I don't call them side effects. I just call them effects because more likely than not, something is going to happen to the person on that list.
Yeah.
And anyway, one for one, when I'd ask the doctor if they tried the medication and did they actually have any sort of effect from them? And then the doctor would tell me no, that they didn't because they don't have a mental illness. And I would say, well, no, hold on a second. If you're going to give a medication to somebody that doesn't have a test, then isn't there something?
Yeah.
I mean, it's heartbreakingly sad, but also funny because you think like, really? Like, are we actually okay with this as a society? I mean, I would love for us to see mental hospitals with wellness IVs. And fine, sleep medication is necessary sometimes because if somebody doesn't get sleep, definitely they're going to have some sort of issues going on because the body has to sleep. Okay. And then after the person sleeps for 3 days, maybe it takes a week and they're taking their wellness IVs, then let's give them a blood test and see, like, or maybe a blood test in the beginning, then a blood test in 7 days. Like these are not that expensive and that outrageous of a policy to put in place. And I think like the more we educate and the more we discuss it, the reality and really what's going on from a place of compassion, understanding of like really wanting to love our loved ones. And if somebody has a bad episode or they lose a job they really loved or they lose a loved one they really love and they have a breakdown and the person needs a respite, they need to go to a place and rest, that there's somewhere that they can actually get a break and not a place where it gets worse for them.
You know what this reminds me of, and I don't know why it came up for me, but I just want to share it, that back in 2005, I was studying Dr. Hammer's work. Have you heard of meta-medicine or New German Medicine, Dr.
Yes.
Hammer? Cool. Yeah. So he... really interesting story for those that don't know about it. I'll be brief. His son gets shot by a prince in like somewhere in Europe. It's super weird, but like he was, and then there was a cover up. So he was distraught. And his wife ends up dying of cancer, and he swears it's because of the emotional impact of the event that she got cancer.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure she died, but she got the cancer. And then he just had this thought: what if disease is from being unable to handle emotional trauma? And so he started to do these brain scans without contrast dye, and he would discover, and he did it for 30,000 people. And well, he started with cancer, and then he started doing it with other people after he realized it's actually all chronic disease he could trace back in the brain. But there would be these centrifugal lines of edema, which is like inflammation on very specific parts of the brain. And he would take, for example, someone who had cancer from maybe it was like an abusive husband, and then she got cancer. And he would take her and move her. He wasn't really good at like mental health, like actually helping someone process or work through stuff, but he would take them and like give them rest. He would take them out of their environment, relocate them to a different city, let them rest, and the cancer would go away. And he's like, over and over and over again, he would do this, and he would see that people would heal when they were able to get out of the environment in which would constantly trigger them. It will remind them, like, let's, remind you of your husband you just lost because you're constantly in that environment. So if you like go on a vacation in Hawaii, like, which not everyone, obviously it's not feasible for everyone to do, but if one could, but more times than not, the person would heal the physical ailment from being removed from the environment and allowed to rest and process. And I think that's so interesting that we have to remember, and this is again what we're taught in. Again, I keep coming back to like what we've been programmed to think is that our mental health is somehow completely separate from our physical body and from our nutrition. And from that coffee you drank and that wine you drank and the poor sleep you had and the poor gut health you have or whatever, or like the antibiotics you took 6 months ago. It's like we've been taught that our physical body and our lifestyle and our nutrition is completely separate from our mental health. And that is a lie that the pharmaceutical industry loves to defend.
Propagate. Yeah.
Exactly. Totally. Because if we can convince you that you don't have a soul, you don't have a spirit, and that your emotional body, mental body, and physical body don't impact each other, which is just like laughable. But this is what they've convinced us. And that you're a robot and you're just a bag of chemicals. You don't have a soul, and you're a walking meat sack of chemicals. And they want to medicate it. And this is what the pharmaceutical industry has us believe. And it's like mental health is your soul crying, your journey to find balance and heal, and your physical health 100% impacts that.
Yeah, totally. You're so right. Yes. It's
Sorry.
Very, very
Again,
true.
I'm just very passionate about your subject.
No. Oh, no, I love it. I love it. I love that we're able to talk today. And, I talking to you makes me feel like I'm on an island that's growing, that's getting bigger. It's a bigger island.
Because there's more, there's all the people listening are joining us on this big, beautiful mental health island.
That. Yeah, I love that. Well, and obviously there's many very, very good doctors, and there's amazing doctors that I've met along the way. And I work with a lot of great doctors on helping someone be able to titrate or helping somebody be able to do whatever they've decided to do, right? Because I'm going to only support someone to make self-determined decisions, But
informed. I think the important thing is informed decisions. Yeah, like they need to be given all the information. And the thing is, medical doctors, there's not one medical doctor out there that can give you true informed consent because they have not explored all of the alternatives. They don't. They're not trained. Unless they go out and they like get a degree in naturopathy and they go get a degree in herbalism and homeopathy
or even just integrative medicine or
functional medicine. Exactly. Like a medical doctor cannot give you true informed consent because they don't know all the alternatives to guide you through.
Interesting. That's very interesting, Ashley, to actually say that a doctor, even though they're legally,
They're
quote
obligated
unquote,
to do it.
supposed to,
Yeah.
yeah, they're obligated
They can't.
legally to give informed consent, that they actually can't because they don't know all the options. I mean, at bare minimum, I think just informed consent on the effects of the medications. If that could just be in standardly, I would be happy. If that could just be done, like, I don't know if you want to take this, but this is an option.
If they sat
Or-
there and told you every single possible effect that drug would have on you, you wouldn't take it. The pharmaceutical industry would
there's no way.
drop 95% of their sales right away. So they cannot perform true informed consent. They cannot fully educate you.
But doctors aren't, I mean, they're not actually working for the pharmaceutical company.
No, they're not. I'm not saying they're bad people, but you have to know how much they're controlled by the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical industry will actually put into question a doctor's license if they don't prescribe enough of certain medications. They will in some ways threaten them.
Wow, is that actually true?
Yes, in certain.
Oh my gosh!
So it depends on like the clinic. It depends on like obviously the state. It depends on like the hospital chain, right? But there have been times where pharmaceutical industries have sort of strong-armed doctors, like, hey, you're not prescribing enough of this, or like we're noticing you're dropping off on this. I'll give you an example that is unrelated to mental health, but still.
Well, I know it's true for kids. I know it's true for kids, and then the whole vaccine thing.
Yeah, I was going to go there with the vaccine thing. So in the state of Washington, where I live, I'm actually really happy that we do have an exemption. We can get a religious exemption for vaccines. So if you choose not to vaccinate your child, or if you as an adult choose not to get vaccines, you can get a religious exemption, and they honor that. Doctors are allowed to give it without question. Do you know that the state of California has vaccine exemptions, but doctors are not allowed to give it?
I know.
Because if they do, and there are legit cases where, like, children, for example, have epilepsy, or they have a really frail health, and vaccines would be detrimental to their health. The doctor wants to give them a vaccine exemption because they are a high risk child. They cannot in the state of California. Doctors are they're basically taken to court. It's so scary for them. So there's not one doctor. I don't know of one doctor, and people have reported to me that they won't, because their license will be taken away. So I'm using that as an example, not in a mental health case, but just coming from the standpoint of doctors are not working for the pharmaceutical industry, but the pharmaceutical industry, first of all, lobbies, and second of all, generously pays doctors. There's ways that they pay them. Fun little TikTok videos you can find of nurses that work in clinics showing you all the goodies they get every day from pharmaceutical reps. So there's carrot and there's stick. And every doctor has carrot and stick. And then there's certain medications they do get kickbacks. So chemotherapy is one of them, where every dose they get several $1,000s. It used to be between $2,000 and $3,000. I don't know what it is anymore. Probably more, because that was like 12 years ago. I got that information. But they are given an actual kickback for chemotherapy, and they will do off script. So I knew I had a neighbor that had lupus. And she was on chemotherapy for her lupus, which is off script, off script means like it has never been proven that this would be good for, like, there's no studies, but doctors do that all the time. They'll do off script medication and they get a kickback for it. So there was definitely an incentive there, which I think is completely unethical. And then there's certain medications that basically pays for the entire overhead of, like, for example, a pediatric clinic. So again, yes, and I'm sure I'm not mentioning every way, but there's trips, and there's like all the incentives, right? So doctors, there's many good ones. I'm sure this is the hardest part because you have a personal relationship with one, even though you probably only see them for 15 minutes. You see the nurse more than you see the doctor. But let's say you love your doctor and you have mental health issues you're struggling with, and they seem kind, and they're trying, and they're prescribing you different medications, and let's try this one, let's try that one. And sometimes it's not even a doctor. Sometimes it's a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant that
Yeah,
are
of course.
prescribing, mental health drugs and trying different augmenting, adding a new one, taking away one. Meanwhile, we're not seeing a expert in mental health, right? We don't take your car to the plumber, and we're seeing someone who is a drug dealer. We have to get that as well intended as they are and as well educated as they are, their entire training is around dealing you drugs. Their training is not in supporting your body's ability to heal itself or supporting your mental health. But when we are desperate and when we are hurting, we just want to feel better. And that's why we have to question this belief system, because we go towards the path of least resistance, and we're sold a bunch of lies. We are sold that the
Yeah, I
doctor
mean,
has something that can help us feel better, and so we go to it, and then we don't realize that it is hurting our brain chemistry by taking them. There's no test that they can do to see if it's correcting something or if it's making it worse, which it often is making it worse. And then we're hooked on drugs that have like a black box label, like you said, and we're going down this road of poisoning our body more and more when our body was maybe out of balance in the first place from nutrition and
right.
toxins. So
Yeah, we're just giving our body a medication that over time there are no studies at this point in time that show the harmful effects of a medication for up to 30, 50 years. My goodness.
yeah.
It's actually quite a health crisis that we have going on in our country.
So my family member I told you about, who was actually put on medication after medication, they kept adding medications. They finally said enough's enough, and they were able to titrate, get off 100% of those medications. I'm so proud of them, and they feel happier and so much better. And one thing I did to help them, and this is what I do with all my clients, and I advise everyone listening to do this if you're on any form of medication over the counter or prescribed, go to the manufacturer's website. Not Google, not just like looking at the WebMD, but actually go to the manufacturer's website and read every single line by line. Take the time, you're worth it. Read every single side effect and look to see if any of those are your symptoms. So I had this happen with a client who was in great health and then all of a sudden had pancreatitis for 8 months, got to 90 pounds, and was living in the hospital more than she was living at home. And she kept calling me desperate. And I'm like, I was doing the best I could to help her as her health coach to navigate this. And I kept saying, what are you putting in your mouth? Like, tell me everything going on. Because we couldn't figure out, why was she always having, like, would she live in a moldy house? Like, what is triggering this? It's so weird. It came out of nowhere. She finally admitted to me after 8 months. I was like, tell me every single thing you put in your mouth. She finally admitted to me. I don't know why she was holding back. Like, I'm not going to berate her for it. That she started taking metformin off script because an endocrinologist, she wasn't diabetic, but an endocrinologist said it would be good for her longevity to take metformin. I'm like, come with me to the manufacturer's website and let's read through line by line. And we find that she could only drink broth out of a straw, and she was in intense pain for like 8-9 months of her life, suffering from this medication. And we read line by line until we find acute pancreatitis is one of the symptoms. Now, she was living in hospitals with nurses and doctors and pharmacists, and none of them caught the main reason why she was in the hospital was from the drug they were giving her. We have to advocate for ourselves. I have a friend who's a vet, and he was vomiting blood for months, and they kept saying that, well, you're an alcoholic, like he's like, no, I stopped drinking. He goes, they were like, well, we think you lie because you're still an alcoholic. He's like, no, I quit drinking. And it was his wife that figured out, now not the pharmacists, not the doctors, not the nurses at the VA hospital, none of it. It was his wife that figured out that the 2 medications they had him on causes people to vomit blood. Like, it is crazy, right? So I know again, I got on my soapbox. I need to throw this soapbox out and let you talk. But it's like,
No,
it's
you're totally fine. I mean, you have a lot of experience.
The point
I
I'm trying
get
to
I mean,
drive home.
Usually it's me on the soapbox.
I'm sorry. Well, thank you. You
About,
you were on vacation
about mental health. No,
you're on the little vacation island. I'll do it for you. So
I get a little vacation. And listen, Ashley, just to tell you, I don't know if I didn't mention this before we started, but I did put together a free gift for your listeners if they're interested. It's called Mental Health Wellness Journey. And what I did is it does have my course on there that I just finished, but mainly
Awesome.
it has all of the biggest game changers for me in the journey of discovering the truth about mental health. Like there's an organization, I don't know if you're familiar with the nonprofit Mind Freedom.
No.
Okay, well, Mind Freedom is great for, the facts and seeing exactly the truth on testing and, the DSM. And then there's another organization called the Citizens Commission on Human Rights.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a good one as far as the data. And there's also, well, you're from Canada, so you've heard of True Hope before, right?
I live in the States now. But
okay. Well, yeah. So True Hope,
awesome.
I mean, it's a big vitamin company that actually has coaches working on site that will help coach somebody through coming off of their medication.
Oh, I love that.
They talk the person through it. So I'll use that company a lot of times, or a doctor if the person's close by, It just the resources, right? Just resources. Like, how do you navigate it and how do you figure it out? Like, what can you do and what do you do? And sure, my own advocate, but you get online and there's so much bad information.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much confusion. And I mean, I know that firsthand because for 15 years I was looking, begging, dying for holistic mental health solution answers to my questions. Obviously, it was a long time ago because I'm not super young anymore. And I think it is a little bit better now. If you look up integrative doctor, you'll actually, find them, or holistic or naturopathic, you'll find them. Whereas, 25 years ago, it was not that common at all. So anyway, I mean, just being your own advocate is so vital for loving somebody if you're trying to help somebody, or yourself if you're trying to figure out what's the next step. So Mental Health Wellness Journey just has all those different websites.
mentalhealthwellnessjourney.com.
Yeah.
And your other website, which we're going to have the links to all the websites that we talked about today in the notes, the show notes of learntohealth.com, and also in the notes of wherever you're listening from, whatever directory, it'll be in there as well. MiriamPutnam.org is your official website, but we definitely want to get your 6 free resources, which is the mentalhealthwellnessjourney.com.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably what people want to download most likely. I mean,
nice.
my website just goes over some of my background, the fact that I'm a foster child advocate. I've been a mental health advocate for a long time. I'm a certified wellness coach. Anyway, it goes over some of my history, and it's kind of in a little bit of a flux right now with some rewrites.
Nice.
But yeah, I think probably listeners will most likely enjoy Mental Health Wellness Journey more because it gets them to actual nonprofits that have been building truth and research and advocacy for a long time, and companies that, can really help, like ship out vitamins. And the one health center that I know of is in Sedona, I think Sedona, Arizona, where somebody can actually go there and get a whole entire body workup and get off of their medication. I mean, it's the type of place where you would go there and stay for a couple weeks. And I think it's called alternative to meds. It's alternative to meds. I'm pretty sure they take insurance as well. So I put all those sort of links on the download. Just, it makes it easier. There's not there's there's not a ton of resources yet. Like we really have to come together as a society and, improve the mental hospitals and improve the resources that, people can find and get when they're having a crisis. But anyway, I'm trying to do the best I can, right, Ashley? Like it's so good. We got to stick together, like-minded people, and make things better together.
Love it. So that first revelation, which we've been covering extensively, which is there is no blood work, there's no test. So we just have to question, like, is drugs the best answer, or even like your first answer? Like, if you've tried everything, you've exhausted everything, you've been like improving your nutrition and your sleep, and you've seen, doing talk therapy, or you're doing cognitive therapy or behavioral psychology, or you're doing, yoga or some kind of relaxation practice, or, like whatever, you cut out all the toxic people in your life, you did all this, and like you still have this problem. It's like, I would say like medication maybe like last resort, not first resort, which so many people run to. So after you had this revelation, this crazy idea, which I do have an interview with a doctor who said, this one drug, like this one depression drug, is meant to change the levels in the brain, because that's like their whole thing. It's like, we got to change these certain levels, like the serotonin, right? Serotonin uptake inhibitor. We're going to inhibit the uptake and then increase the serotonin. He goes, there's no test. We can't, like,
Right.
we don't even test to see if they have enough serotonin, or we're giving them a drug to increase serotonin in their brain, thinking that the lack of serotonin is the problem, but there's no test. And then after you put them on the medication, there's no test to see if it's helping, right? You're just like, I'm just going to put you on this medication with a bunch of effects that hurt the body, and then it might make your mental illness worse. Like side effect, suicide.
Yeah. I mean, listen, in this country, we have a whole entire month dedicated to suicide prevention that I'm pretty sure is I don't know, like funded is the exact correct word, but that's sad. I mean, that's super sad that we are giving medications for a mental issue, and then people are committing suicide from the medication.
Right.
And then we're saying, no, it's because of the mental illness. I mean, it just breaks my heart. Like people are actually,
And children and young adults, like teenagers, like this age group, I think it was like 8 to 24, right? They're, I believe, we could go look back at the statistics, but the last time I looked at them, the number one cause of death was suicide. Like they are the most vulnerable, right? And first of all, don't give your kids or teenagers social media. There's studies showing that, like Instagram, for example, increases depression and suicide in children. Do not give social media to kids. And honestly, I feel like there's days where I should parent myself and take the phone away from myself.
Well, but I think it's illegal in a lot of states now for kids under 14.
But that doesn't stop parents. I mean, all you have to do is click a button. Yes, I am 18. It's we need to. The problem is when we're parents, we want to like be their friend, be their buddy, like make the relationship happy between us. And the thing is that's because we don't like the tension of the fighting and whatever. It's like, no, we can be their friend when they're an adult, but we're their executive function. We have to 100% take over their executive function and be their executive function, and then dole it back to them as long as they're able to. But don't give children, like you wouldn't give children cocaine. Don't like, there's certain things you won't give them, right? But don't give them social media, just like you wouldn't give them a gun or cocaine. It is just as harmful in many ways, especially for mental health. Okay, so you talked about this concept that we have to get that there is no test. So it is like a man-made construct. Yes, you have symptoms. I'm not negating you don't have symptoms.
No, symptoms are real. Like they're totally real. Like somebody's depressed, they lost somebody. I don't know. They're having a roller coaster. They're going up and down in life. Like the symptoms are real. completely and totally. What I advocate for and what I help people with is, let's just find the underlying body health issue. And then once that's handled, then I can go on to other techniques that I really love. Like you are proficient at handling people's anxiety. I teach people how to exercise their mind muscle and then
Mm.
increase their soul health. So I take things a step further, which is the mind doesn't always reside in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so there's different techniques that I help somebody with and walk somebody through that will actually strengthen that muscle. Like a person goes to the gym and they go to the gym to work out their muscles. Well, there's a way that somebody can actually strengthen the mind muscle so that they're able to change the channel in their mind more rapidly, right? Because you can think of a time when you were 10 years old or 20 years old or on vacation or on a boat or skiing or scuba diving. Like, we can do that. But sometimes when stress comes into our life, it just is stuck there and it's so hard to get it out. Well, so I just work on different techniques with people to be able to move past it.
In not only decreasing stress, but in controlling it and not having it control them.
Yeah, because you are in control of your mind, just as I am in control of my mind. So the person has to get that they are, a person, at least from my viewpoint, in order to help them totally balance their body, mind, and soul, is that they are like the captain of their ship. They don't have to be effect of the medical industry. And like obviously health is the most important thing, right? Because if we don't have our health, somebody just has lost all hope, right? But it's like handling that and correcting it and fixing it, because I've gone through very difficult health struggles and I know you have as well. So obviously we want that foundation to be strong in order to make things higher and go better and improve.
I know that you do this coaching around stress. And stress, a lot of people think stress is an emotion. Can you describe what stress is in relationship to mental health, and are there any thought tools that you could give us now?
Well, so a lot of people are going to describe stress in very different words, right? So some people could pinpoint a problem or a stress area with money. Somebody could pinpoint a problem area with a relationship. For some reason, I am just having such a hard time getting along with my husband or getting along with my wife, or I don't know why, but my kids are irritating the bejeez out of me, right? Or somebody could have an extremely tough time with maybe in-laws. I've met a lot of people where that is a very big trigger, right? And so like working out, like what is it? And then how to handle it. And because all of us define stress in so many different ways, like maybe it's work stress. Maybe somebody absolutely can't stand their boss or can't stand their board members, or, I don't know, right? Like different people are going to describe it differently. But to each person, it is their specific truth. And working out an exact wellness plan on how to navigate that, how to develop healthy habits and techniques, to how to create policies in order to move their life into the next stage. Like, what is their next step? Is this a deal breaker? Is it not a deal breaker? Those sort of pivotal life questions, like, can I fix my marriage? If so, how do I do it? And then I would work with somebody on how to do that.
Are you able to? Is there a technique that you can share with us, or some thought process that we can experience?
Well, yeah, so there's a couple different techniques as far as mind health goes, like getting more control over one's mind. So a technique that I help people with a lot is take a walk, which, obviously all of us know, like, okay, yeah, take a walk. Sure, I know how to take a walk. But it's purposely being conscious, like not being in the unconscious part of the mind, like getting out of the subconscious. Like try not to take that stress on your walk. Don't take your phone and look at your phone and read all your work emails. Put your phone in your back pocket, leave it at your house, whatever you need to do, but consciously exercise the mind muscle by directing one's attention to the environment, right? It kind of reminds me of this Dr. Hammer guy that you brought up. This is like a mini way of doing that, right? If somebody can't, like, you can't go get a Lear jet and fly off to Hawaii, right? But we can actually go and take control of our lives and go and take a powerful walk, and take that walk for 45 minutes or an hour and a half if that's what it takes. But so not looking at the phone, purposely not thinking about all your to-do items. Sometimes I'll even walk somebody through writing a list before they go take their walk, but finding a bird in the environment, noticing what color of the door is on the building, smiling at the person walking by, noticing, are they wearing shorts or are they wearing pants? If you're walking by water, looking to see if there's birds on the water, looking at the trees, noticing the leaves, looking at the sidewalk, looking at the car, like, and actually directing your attention. And so you are looking at the walk, and you are looking at the person walking towards you. You're looking at the fountain. You're looking at the buildings. You are exercising your mind muscle to direct your attention to not be on the thing that is stressful. You're controlling your mind. You are learning to control the channels in your mind by doing that. And so then a person needs to, maybe for some people, a walk could take 10 minutes. For me, because I practice what I preach, it usually takes about 30 to 45 minutes. Or maybe somebody, it takes 2 hours. But being committed to trying the practice first off, and then deciding to keep it in as a healthy habit when one sees the benefits. I would say probably it would take a week to 2 to really start noticing, like, oh, wow, I can control my mind. And I do control my mind. Maybe it happens more quickly for some than others, but it will happen. And then if you want me to tell you another tip, I can go into the next one. But that is the biggest one that gives somebody so much more control back over their life. Like, oh, wow, right, I am the captain of my ship. Like, I am the soul in charge of this mind and this body. Like, I can do this. So it's usually quite liberating. It's usually quite liberating for a person when they really grasp that they're changing the channels in their mind. I know, like, I've basically coined this, but yeah, so that's highly effective and very beneficial. And then another way somebody can exercise their mind muscle is like writing down something like that they absolutely have loved to do. Maybe it's kayaking, maybe it's paddleboarding, I don't know, maybe it's eating cake, maybe it's ice cream, I don't know, like whatever makes a person really, really happy. Like, do you have one in your mind right now, Ashley? What would it be?
Spending time with my son.
Oh, I love that. And what are you guys doing?
Homeschooling.
Oh,
we
awesome.
homeschool. So
do you do that every day?
Yeah, we try to. But we get like math and piano every day, and then he's so curious. That's the wonder of homeschooling, is that you get to watch your child blossom. Like you get to see them have these leaps in their development, and he just wows me. So that's what I love. I love seeing that. It's the coolest thing. And he's so curious. So we do a lot of spontaneous homeschooling. He's like, why does an octopus, squirt ink? Or I mean, that's a question he had like 5 years ago. But like, or like, how does a jet engine work? Or he'll just randomly ask a question, and it's usually more complicated than that one now. And then we just dive in. We're like, I don't know, let's find out. And then we dive into like, videos and reading about it. And I'll jump on my phone and reserve a bunch of books on the topic. So he'll just get excited about a certain topic. And then like cephalopods were our more recent thing. So we got some DVDs and books from the library on cephalopods and watched some different, discovery videos on cephalopods. And of course, he wants to have pet cephalopods now. And I organized a field trip where we got to see the sea cephalopods. And so it's just fun to guide him and that I think what you're like, even just by writing it down, you're reliving it, you're thinking about why you love it. Just thinking about it gets me excited, gets me happy. I'm like anchored in that positive state.
I can
anchored
hear
in
that.
emotion,
I can hear that in your voice. Yeah. And I mean, and when you're thinking about it, do you see what you're doing
Yes.
in the picture, right?
Yeah, in my mind's eye.
In your mind's eye, like you see the look on your son's face. You see actually what you're doing in that 1 hour time period or whatever it is when you're like the most excited in the experience. I don't know, like what would you say it is? Is it painting, or is it just like when watching him write or watching him learn something new, or how would you describe it?
It's like us talking, like mostly him talking, and me being proud of him, and just see us sitting there on the couch, like him talking, and maybe I'm hearing that he's understanding something in a new way.
That's so gorgeous. And hopefully you don't mind me saying this, but from my viewpoint, it seems like you are living your best life and so blessed because you get to do this almost every day. And it's something that you get so much pleasure out of. Yeah.
Homeschooling is the hardest and most rewarding thing I've ever done. Just like being a parent is like in some ways the hardest and most rewarding thing. It's like I don't know if you've ever seen video games have like hardcore mode. But homeschooling is like hardcore mode. So if you found like your current parenting path a little boring, then you should try homeschooling, because
oh no, hats off to you, girl. Hats off to you. Seriously,
it's worth it.
I tried it during the the world during that time period. I tried it, and wow, I was.
Well, I think
my admiration and respect for teachers went through the roof.
I know. And my son loves it. I'm not forcing it upon him. It's both. It's my choice and his choice. And that's what I love about our dynamic. It's as I'm not forcing him to do the schooling. Thank God. Like sometimes he's like, do we have to do that now? I'm like, well, we have to get it over. We have to do it today. He's like, okay. But like, thank God I'm very blessed to not have a child that's like fighting me tooth and nail, because I know there's a lot of there's our homeschoolers out there, and there's kids that go to brick and mortar school that that fight it, and I don't blame them. It's school sucks and it's boring until we realize that we actually do love learning, and the whole the whole point of homeschooling is to not kill the love of learning. Don't kill your child's love of learning. Kids do love to learn, but there's certain stuff that we gotta learn. You gotta learn math. Sometimes it's not fun. Make it fun. Try to make it fun.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. And I mean, when a kid has a purpose in place for learning, then it makes things a lot easier. But yeah, so that's basically it. I mean, it was that.
So if you write
amazing.
down and get in touch with write down the things you love doing most and get in touch with it. Is this an activity you do every day, like a gratitude journal?
I don't look at it as far as a journal. I look at it as a mind muscle, like a mind health exercise, so that somebody can change the channel in their mind, and that the stress, because we don't always know exactly what is going to be so stressful and when it's going to happen. If it's the car that's going to cut us off in the roadway, if we find out that, our perfect relationship that we thought it was actually isn't so perfect, and we have a disaster on our hands. Like, we find out someone we love in our family has a terminal illness. Like, stress can happen all the time. We get, phone call after phone call after phone call. We get bill in the mail after bill in the mail, right? And so it's just having a way to, it's not avoid, right? But it's actually changing the channel for a bit of time so that the body doesn't go into overwhelm and overdrive, so that a person can take those 5 or 10 steps before screaming their head off about how stressful something is, right? And so if a person wants to write down their really, really happy memory, then that works. If they don't want to and they just want to think about it, then that's what they do. But it's very, very different from guided imagery, because this is up to the person's own determinism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am not saying, okay, now you're going to close your eyes and walk down a path and birds are chirping and the brook is gurgling. It's the person taking it into their own hands to control their mind and purposely think about the things in their life that bring them joy and make them happy. And, think about the things that you can smell in that memory. Think about the things that you can see. Think about the things that you can hear, like all your senses on fire, so to speak, so that it's really real. So that when stress happens, I mean, obviously not right away. It's not always easy right away to think about the happy moment, but just a little bit of a flux to go back and forth can help a person, calm down and not freak out.
It also stops the spiral if you choose to do this, because when, let's say you're mentioning some things, like you hear about a terminal illness or you lose a job or you find out bad news, right? Something stresses you out. It's actually, which I'm sure you would get into, go deeper to explain. It's more about our thoughts about it, because what we have to do is slow down our thinking, and then we start to hear we're meaning making machines. So we're constantly going to take an input and go, what is this? Because of this means this. And it doesn't necessarily like, oh no, because I got this bad news. Like, let's say, I lost my job, as an example. I lost my job, and our mind goes, I won't be able to pay the bills. I'm going to be homeless, and we're all going to die. And our mind kind of goes down this
right, like a doomsday, like a dwindling spiral.
Right. Not like, oh, this is such a great opportunity for me to actually, I didn't like that job anyway. I wasn't really happy there. I wasn't growing. I was kind of stagnant. And this is actually God opening this new window, and I'm going to find a better job that is going to like really be fulfilling. Like, oh, this is the opportunity I needed, the kick in the butt I need to be like, that's not our first thought. Our first thought is we're going to be homeless and dead.
Right. And we hear this about like, oh yeah, positive mindset. Have a positive mindset, and your affirmations and all of this, that positive psychology is, it's propelling, I guess, is, I can use that word. It's a nice word. Like it's all over the place, and like it's a normal sort of thought pattern or communication that we hear, right? But it's like, what does that actually mean? How do I live that way? And practicing healthy habits, is that's what I coach on, like healthy body habits, healthy mind health habits, and healthy soul health habits. And just to be able to find the place that the person is looking for, so that they can actually maybe understand what a positive mindset is. Well, the positive mindset would be like actually how you feel in your most happy memory.
And another positive mindset.
That we're not going down. Like we're not going down. We're not doing that doomsday talk like you and I were just talking about. Like that's not there.
Yeah. I love this idea of, okay, write down or basically get anchored in and think about this thing, the thing you do or have done that brings you most joy. Because it's a break state from the
Mm-hmm.
mental spiraling we may have not even be conscious that we were doing. Sometimes we just all of a sudden feel
Mm-hmm.
that fear or that dread
Yeah.
or that pain
Mm-hmm.
after receiving news, for example, and we don't realize that we almost unconsciously started doing that doomsday thinking.
Yeah.
Or at least
Mm-hmm.
in our mind, we're planning like, oh no, am I not going to be able to do this? Am I not going to be able to do that? And our mind
Right.
goes towards those negatives, but taking that 30 seconds to think about, or 1 minute to think about what brings us most joy, like break state,
Yeah.
reset. Now ask yourself, what is the opportunity here? And I learned
Right.
this from Tony Robbins. He goes, what is good about this? And even though in the worst news, ask yourself, what is good about this? And not sarcastically, but like really, and it's hard. The first you have to answer as many as you can. And the first three are going to be sort of like whatever, easy, but like get to 4 and 5. And then you start to see the opportunities that you weren't letting yourself see because you were stuck in that doomsday mindset. But like
Yeah.
what you
But it
described
takes
is like,
training, you know? Like
oh yeah,
it takes training, you know? It really does. It takes training, and it takes like practicing healthy habits over and over and over again so that a person gets control over it.
what trigger, or like, do you have something that helps people catch themselves? Because like we're so used to an old way of being, right? We're so used to the doing the old pattern. Do you have a trigger to help people go, oh, I need to think about the thing that brings me joy? I need to like get out of this spiral. Like, so do you have something that helps people like get back to being conscious? Like you said, go for walks, which is, I love that because that also it helps the break state. But
Well,
do you,
yeah, and I mean it's kind of like what you were talking about with Dr. Hammer. Like it's like being able to change the environment, and like we have to, like, obviously physically with our body, but what this is changing the environment with your mind, you know? And I mean, it's a great question, Ashley, and honestly, each person is going to be different. You
Mhm.
know, each person has like different trauma that they have, you know, either brilliantly survived or barely survived, right? And so, however, that person's unconscious mind is wearing on them to worry or anxiety or depression or self guilt, or, you know, I don't know, there's so many different ways that the unconscious mind is just like gnawing at, can gnaw at us. So that's a difficult question. I mean, I would have to be, I mean, there are coaching techniques that I work with somebody on being able to identify that, and then helping them to come up with a self-determined decision on how have you decided to change things so that you can rise above that. I will work with people on those things specifically, but like exactly how to identify, like somebody's probably going to know, like if they're around a person, maybe it does that to them. If they're around a job that they really hate, like something in their life is bringing them down. Like their soul health is suffering because of something in their life. There's some sort of energy vampire, some toxic thing going on in their life that probably needs to be handled. You know, it's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like going to a doctor for a surgery that you don't really want to have, but you just have to have it because it's like going to be a life-saving surgery. You just have to cut out that cyst, because if you don't, then that cancer could kill you. So sometimes we have to do that in our lives with things that aren't that comfortable to do it with, in order to rise above and like take our life to the next level.
I love it. What you've been describing is like mental hygiene.
Yeah.
You know,
It's mental hygiene. Yeah.
we're so good at like keeping our bodies clean because it's outward experience, and the hardest part, one of the hardest parts about mental health issues is that people can't see your suffering. Like if you had a broken arm, if the broken arm was the problem, everyone can see it, but it's like they don't know how much you're hurting on the inside because they can't
Right.
see it. Just like there's no test for it, they can't see it. Like maybe they can see your face looks sad, but they don't actually see your pain, which is hard because it's isolating. It's very isolating. So
Yeah.
just like you wash your body so that on the outside people see you're clean, we have to practice every day mental hygiene on the inside, emotional hygiene on the inside, and mental emotional. The mental body directly impacts our emotional body. So mental hygiene is emotional hygiene. But we've got to practice it.
And I
every
mean,
day.
sometimes totally. I mean, it's healthy habits. And sometimes, like if somebody's going through a really tough time, I mean, none of us enjoy those times in our life. So we've all had them. And so when things are really hard, it's okay to let the grief out. Like it's okay. Even if I tell people sometimes, like, it's fine. Grab your sunglasses and go on a walk. If you have to cry while you're walking, that's fine.
Love it.
Like you just have to like let it out.
Yeah.
Because it's healthy. It's not about like pretending, right? But it's about gaining more control over it so that it doesn't bring us down. Because life can be hard sometimes. Like it can totally be hard sometimes. And then like, where are the techniques that actually work, right? Because, okay, positive mindset, but like, how do you actually really do that? Like it was, and this is just through my research, my education, my training and everything. Like I was, trying to put some puzzle pieces together on how do we change conditions, like really.
And it starts with those simple things, like you said, and we overlook them, like the go for a walk every day, especially when you feel stressed. Think about what brings you joy. Make a list so that you don't sit there and go, well, I don't know what brings you joy when you're like stuck in stress. You're like, I don't know what brings you joy. Have that list ready to think about because we need to get ourselves out of that state.
Yeah, a lot of people do gratitude lists. I've heard a lot of success stories regarding gratitude lists. That's not something that I usually like go into with somebody, but I've heard a lot of people say that they love them, and I kind of do one mentally.
Well, think about the thing that brings you joy. It's like that feels like the same thing. You're grateful for it, but what you're doing,
maybe it is. Maybe it is, huh?
What you're doing is you're getting them to actually get into the memory, which then accesses the emotion, which shifts our state, and shifting our state shifts our focus and our physiology. And shifting our physiology calms us. Right? So it has that cascade effect. Whereas a gratitude list, I think you can still, if you are like really determined to be stressed out, I think you could stay. I mean, if you're not getting into the like memory of it, like I am grateful for my son, and I get fully in that, right? Like I like remember how much we struggled to conceive him, and I remember like holding him as a baby. Like I remember like every night I pray over him and I thank God for him, and I am it is God gave me my biggest joy when he gave me my son. So it's like that gratitude, like it's not cerebral. It is visceral. So when you do a gratitude list, it needs to be visceral to access, because we got to get
like relive it, really relive it. Yeah, relive it.
Visceral gratitude.
Get in the. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to trademark it together. Actually.
I know, right? Like mental hygiene checklist. It's like the visceral gratitude is like you don't just like take a little bit of soap and you get that scrubby and you suds it up and then you scrub it in, right? Like you're meant to, like you get fully involved, fully scrub yourself up with get yourself covered in the suds of gratitude of that.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And that mental shift, it's not the solution. That's the thing, is like people oftentimes will go like a walk. Come on, I'm depressed. Like, or I'm totally stressed out, or I'm like, and they'll be like a walk and a gratitude list. Come on. Like, what is this? It's like, no, you gotta fully do it. You have to like really commit to it.
It takes work.
Because it's about shifting your state. And the more you shift your state and then choose the state you want, the more you're rewiring your brain. This is not the solution. This is the journey to a better, healthier brain by doing these practices. And you only gave us 2 practices. There's many more.
Yeah, there's so many.
Love it. Mentalhealthwellnessjourney.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know we just touched the surface.
I know, but thank you so much for having me. I feel like we're going to be great friends.
Yes. You want to come back and share more? We'd love to have you. I feel like you definitely have more to discuss. I want to know, like, you only mentioned the first one where you talked about, like, the big aha around mental health is that there are no tests really. Like, there's no, which is crazy, but yeah, I'm sure you have more.
It's like the most extreme evaluation that anybody can ever go through.
Right.
It's like,
wild.
Whoa, wild. It's totally wild. The fact that we've been putting up with this for as long as we have, it actually shocks me.
Yeah. Well, think about this. At one point in health, in the healthcare industry, like leeching and using x-rays as in abundance was safe and healthy, right? Or lobotomies. Do you remember? Like, so you should study, like, as in like all the listeners, just dive into go into some wiki, rabbit hole of the history
of the human rights abuses.
And
human rights abuses in mental health.
Human rights abuses in modern health. Look at the lobotomies they forced upon, especially women. You know the word hysterectomy is because our womb makes us hysterical, right? Of course,
right.
And the lobotomy is where they shove a needle up your nose and separate your brain, the 2 hemispheres of your brain, rendering you like with half the IQ you have. And it's really, really, really sad. But we have to look at that. Like, we have to look at all these atrocities in mental health and in, just healthcare, the quote unquote healthcare, right? It's not care. And then realize that they're doing atrocities today. And in 100 years, they will look back at us and go, oh my gosh, can you believe they used to use leeches and lobotomies and prescribe all these crazy medications for healthcare and for mental health? Like,
I know. I hope we get to that day very soon, Ashley.
But
I really do.
It takes all of us.
Yeah, it takes all of us. Like, we have to
for ourselves.
We have to,
right. And advocate for your friends and your family. But the first thing, which I think the most important thing, which we really covered today, which the most important thing is this mindset, this understanding that you are not broken. The system
not broken.
is broken.
Yeah.
You
are not broken.
Are on a soul journey. You are a beautiful person who is not broken. Actually, I spent the last few months researching and writing this article that turned into like 5 articles about mental health and the whole thing, how it starts is like, you are not broken. The system is broken.
Yes,
and
I love
system
that.
Tries to convince you that you're broken and that you need the system. The system is an absolutely narcissistic, abusive a-hole that is trying to convince you that you need it. And you need to break up with this system and go, eat, love, pray. Because this system is the abuser. You are not, you've been a victim unknowingly of a system that tried to convince you your whole life that you're broken. And it's the system that's broken. So the mental health care system is broken on purpose because it's by design for profit, not for healing. So
I know, but we can. I have to remain hopeful in the fact that we as a community can come together with sane mental health policies so that we can improve it. Like, we can change conditions together. Like, it doesn't have to be like this forever. I mean, currently in the United States of America, we have, it's hard to believe, but that electric shock is still being used on children. Like, that's happening in the United States of America. And that the fact, like, even if there was only one, that's too many. It's like these sort of things that are going on that are hidden behind closed doors. Nobody talks about Medicaid, Medicare money, older people, super sick people, and like electric shocking kids. Like, if more people knew about that, then we would outlaw it immediately.
Yeah.
Right? So I have to remain hopeful that the more we educate and the more we advocate and the more that we talk about things that aren't so pleasant or fun to discuss, right? Because who likes to talk about, like, how do we help and change these emotional issues that we have? Well, we have to. We have to talk about it, because being drugged in a mental hospital after you've just lost a job or lost your home is not going to make life better. It's going to make life worse. So let's use compassion and love and kindness to helping heal our fellow man.
Wonderful.
So thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely.
Ashley.
Please come back on the show, because we can never talk about mental health enough. And I'd love for you to come back and teach us some more techniques. Come back and share more. I know you have so much to give, and listeners, please share this episode with those you care about, especially those who you know might be struggling. Here's the thing: is that this too shall pass, and for some people, it's felt so long, like they feel like it'll always have it, and by working on it and being curious and diving into your own, mental, emotional hygiene, right, practices, we can turn a corner. There's so many studies, like there's several studies where they took people who were struggling with depression and they prayed, and which wasn't a practice they were used to, prayed and read the Bible every day. And they, all of them had a significant shift. And I thought that was really interesting, but that was a practice that had them thinking about their life purpose and love and their creator and forgiveness, and those things they weren't used to thinking about necessarily. And praying, in prayer we connect with gratitude, we connect with purpose, we ask for forgiveness, we examine our own selves, and have a hope. We fill ourselves with hope, hoping that our creator's listening to us. And sometimes we're filled with the Holy Spirit, like we feel like God's presence, and that is healing. So just, there are so many things to explore in this area and to try. And so when we're stuck in mental health, we feel like it is forever. And I promise you, this too shall pass. That's the hope I give, is this too shall pass.
Yes, our minds are very powerful. What you brought up as far as like the prayer and the powerful thoughts and what people can do when they're united together with a common purpose can actually move mountains, so to speak. So it's very important. Okay, well, thank you so much, and I look forward to coming on again. You are quite a magical being. I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to be prancing around today going, I am a magical being. I think I'll get that on a t-shirt.
Do it. Yes, I love it.
Thank you so much. Okay, definitely come back. And listeners, make sure that you go and check out mentalhealthwellnessjourney.com.
Much love. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Saltzman, and I am the head coach at takeyoursupplements.com. I wanted to share with you a testimonial that I received from a client of mine, one of the many success stories that I have, but this one just was very close to my heart because she's young and has struggled so much to regain her health and has had just such a phenomenal overcoming testimonial that I really wanted to share it today. She writes, "My name is Angela. I am 25 years old. I have been on a health journey that consists of an autoimmune disease, fibromyalgia, and other issues that left me feeling defeated and debilitated every day for 15 years. I have seen 8 different specialists, and many doctors have been in and out of physical therapy dealing with symptoms I thought would leave me wheelchair bound and in diapers by the time I was 30. Well, I am now 25, and after everything I've learned through Jennifer at takeyoursupplements.com, that definitely won't happen. Some things doctors have said to me have crushed my hopes. I was told to lose weight and that my pain would go away. So I lost 90 pounds, and the pain was still there. My days were short, and after a 5-hour work shift or even a day of running an errand or two, I was left debilitated. So the doctors told me the pain was all in my head because I was previously diagnosed with fibromyalgia, the only diagnosis so many doctors agreed upon because they couldn't think of anything else despite me having some form of an immune disease. I felt hopeless and as if life was going to pass me by. There were times when I tried hiking 1 or 2 miles and I was unable to walk or function for days after. I was missing out on trips and adventures, and as embarrassing as it sounds, I was having BM bathroom emergencies so frequently, it was ruining my daily function. I could go on about the ways I was ill and what it kept me from, but honestly, after the progress I've made, a long list of symptoms I used to have become a blur of the past. When I finally decided to check out takeyoursupplements.com, recommended through the Learn True Health podcast, I was immediately connected with Jennifer, who kept track of my overwhelmingly long list of complex symptoms and thoroughly created a personalized step-by-step plan. Her recommendations have changed my life, and the changes were practically instant. She put me on a complete digestive activation complex that has taken away all of my stomach pain, unnecessary bloating and gas, and she explained to me that the formula supports every stage of digestion from breakdown to absorption, designed to optimize stomach acid, bile flow, and nutrient assimilation. She recommended a cellular repair-focused diet, which not only has helped my stomach, but the food gives me energy and makes me feel really good. It reduces inflammation in my body, something no doctor ever told me about. When I first started with Jennifer, I took the takeyoursupplements.com health evaluation, and I scored a negative 32. I just retook it and scored a 69. That's 100 points better in 5 months. Still room for progress, but my life nevertheless has been changed, and I am so happy. My days have been much longer and full of adventure. I have hiked the 4,000-footer mountains of New Hampshire, something I never thought I would be able to do. I have had successful days of workouts, errands, and work. The Learn True Health podcast and Jennifer at takeyoursupplements.com have done more for me than any doctor ever has. And it all started with validation. I am now 25 and feel my life is just now starting. It's really hard to put into words just how much has changed for me. So I'll keep on living as actively as possible and learning as much as I can so I can finally take part in the beautiful things of life. I can't wait for the adventures to come with the hope I've been given through this program. If anyone out there hears this and feels their doctors are taking more than they're giving, give this a try. Thank you, Ashley and Jennifer. Your knowledge and expertise is a gift I cherish every day.
Learn more and book your free health consultation today by visiting takeyoursupplements.com.